I was sitting on my front porch sipping a cup of black coffee when it happened. A white BMW with flashy gold rims kicked up a cloud of dust as it barreled down my long gravel driveway. Before I could even get up, a woman in a tight red business suit and high heels stormed out, waving a stack of papers over her head. "You need to vacate this property immediately," she screamed. "I bought it fair and square. This ranch is mine now." I blinked, still half in disbelief. I'm a 60-year-old retired Army sergeant, and this ranch has been in my family for 120 years. My great-granddaddy built it with his bare hands, and the deed sits locked up in my safe inside the house. The woman stomped right up to my porch, waving the papers as if they were a magic wand. "Ma'am," I said, keeping my voice calm like I learned back in the service, "you're trespassing. I suggest you turn around, get in your car, and leave before things get messy." She actually laughed, flipping her blonde hair over her shoulder. "Oh, please, you're just some old man squatting here. I have a buyer lined up for this property already. Either you sign the papers or I'll have you removed." The gall of it left me speechless for a moment, but not for long. I leaned closer, close enough for her perfume to prick my nose, and said very clearly, "Get off my land." Her face turned beet red. "You'll regret this," she shrieked, before stomping back to her BMW. She revved the engine and sped off, dust swirling in her wake. I stood on the porch for what felt like an eternity, staring down at the so-called purchase agreement she'd left behind. My fists clenched tightly as I realized this wasn't just a random realtor trying to make a sale. She was a soldier in a war I hadn't signed up for, and I knew this storm wasn't over. The ranch had been my safe haven for decades. After 22 years in the Army, seeing the worst the world had to offer, all I ever wanted was peace and wide open skies. Neighbors respected that, most of them old-timers like me. They understood that land wasn't just dirt, it was blood, sweat, and history. The idea that this high-heeled city woman could waltz in and try to push me out sent fury boiling through my veins. I took the agreement inside and locked it in my safe next to my deed. If she came back with the law, I wanted to be ready. Days passed quietly after that, just how I liked it. I spent my time tending to the cattle and fixing up a chicken coop that a coyote had gotten into. Every day, I took in the crisp spring, mornings savoring the calm before the inevitable storm. Then it happened. One afternoon, I was at the barn repairing a busted water line when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I wiped my hands on my jeans, grabbed my hat, and stepped outside. Sure enough, there she was again, the realtor, this time flanked by two men in suits. They marched right up without so much as knocking, pushing open the gate like they owned the place. "You were warned," the realtor said, smiling smugly. "These men are here to finalize the paperwork. You need to sign now or we'll escalate things legally." I crossed my arms over my chest. "You're trespassing again. Last warning, get off my land." One of the suits pulled out a cell phone, recording me. "Hostile and uncooperative," he said aloud. "This will be important for the case." "Case? What case?" My jaw clenched tight. They were trying to set me up to make me look violent so they could call the police or file a fake lawsuit. Not today. I took a deep breath and let my Army training catch up with me. "You want a case? Fine. You're about to get one." I pulled my own phone from my back pocket and started recording them right back. "This is private property," I said, voice steady. "I have the legal deed. You've been warned to leave. You're trespassing under state law. Anything you say or do will be recorded and turned over to the sheriff's office." The realtor's sly smile faltered. One of the suits whispered something to her, but she clearly wasn't ready to give up. "Not yet," she hissed. "You'll regret this. We'll see," I replied, and as she turned to leave, she kicked over a flower pot by the porch, sending dirt scattering everywhere. I watched them go, feeling tension rise in my gut. This was only going to escalate, and I was ready. That night, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and purple over the fields, I sat on the porch, shotgun leaning next to me. I wasn't planning to use it, not unless I had to, but when you've spent decades in the Army, you learn to prepare for anything. This ranch wasn't just property. It was my home, my legacy, my life. No slick realtor or shady homeowners association was going to take it without a fight. But little did I know, the next time she showed up, she wouldn't come alone, and she wouldn't come empty-handed. My battle was just beginning, and the stakes were higher than I could imagine. The quiet was shattered by the low growl of engines as 4 black SUVs rolled down my gravel driveway like a menacing parade. I stood on my porch, my heart pounding as they parked in a line and outpoured a swarm of suits and clipboard-toting lackeys. The realtor was in the middle, strutting like she owned the place, a smug grin plastered across her face that made my blood boil. "Good evening, sir," she said sweetly, the venom hidden beneath her words. "We're here to begin the inspection." Inspection? Of what? I shot back, crossing my arms, unwilling to back down an inch. "My property," she said brightly, waving a manila envelope as if it were a magic wand. "Per the contract, we're authorized to inspect the premises before closing." "Closing? You think you can just roll in here like this?" My voice hardened as I took a step forward, anger igniting my every word. "You are trespassing." "Get off my land!" As her smile faltered, a glimmer of uncertainty crossed her eyes. One of the suited men pulled out his phone, starting to film. "Hostile and uncooperative," he said to the camera, his voice dripping with smug entitlement. "Is that so?" I pulled my own phone from my pocket and pointed it at them. "You want a documentary? Fine. I have the legal deed right here. You're trespassing, and anything you say will be reported to the sheriff's office." The realtor's mask slipped, and the anger beneath seeped through. "You'll regret this, old man," she hissed, gesturing to her crew, who had begun moving closer as if ready to pounce. "We'll see who's laughing soon enough." Before she finished, I turned and stepped onto the porch, my back to them, as I dialed the sheriff's office. I could feel their eyes boring into my back, their annoyance palpable. "I need officers out at Walker Ranch," I said calmly when someone answered. "Trespassers. Might get ugly." I hung up just in time to see the realtor kick over a flower, pot dirt spilling everywhere. "You've crossed a line," I said, and my heart raced with the adrenaline of confrontation. "You don't get to come here and act like you own the place." Ignoring me, she turned and barked orders at her entourage. "Get the measurements. Take inventory. We don't have all day." All she could think about was that phantom buying power. I wouldn't give in. I wouldn't let her turn my sanctuary into a luxury condo. Then I saw a young ranch hand, a kid I sometimes hired, arguing with one of the suits near the cattle pen. "Stay back," I shouted suddenly, my instincts screaming. The suit shoved the kid, who stumbled, and the entire herd spooked, a thunderous roar of hooves erupting as they surged toward the chaos. In seconds, the ranch transformed into a whirlwind of panic. Cattle charged across the yard, mooing and frenzied, sending clipboard-wielding wannabes flying into the air like rag dolls. The realtor screamed, diving behind her pristine SUV. "Get the cattle back." Someone shouted, but it was too late. My prize bull Tank bolted through the throng, head lowered for an all-out assault on their shiny BMW. I grabbed my phone, capturing the mayhem, knowing this chaos would be crucial for any future legal battle. "Tank, no!" I yelled, but my voice was drowned out by the clamor. My bull charged, an unstoppable force, and I stood rooted in place, heart racing. Crash! Tank slammed into the side of her car with a deafening crunch, the sleek metal crumpling like aluminum foil under the weight of pure, unyielding muscle. The alarm blared, an angry wail that felt like sweet justice echoing in my chest. The suits scattered, some diving into the nearest bushes, while the realtor screamed again, scrambling out from behind her car. I couldn't help but chuckle as she stumbled in her heels, trying to make sense of the utter disaster her greed had unleashed. Whistled low and sharp, calming my herd while ensuring my phone captured every second of the carnage. Once the cattle were settled back in their pens, I turned my focus to the group standing dumbstruck by the wreckage of her car. "Do you still want to conduct an inspection?" I called, my tones smooth as silk, satisfaction oozing from my words. She glared at me, hate radiating off her in waves. But it didn't matter. I had the upper hand, and I wasn't about to let her take it away. Just then, I spotted the familiar flash of blue and red lights rolling down my dirt driveway. bringing sanctuary with them through the storm of chaos. Deputy Carter stepped out, taking in the scene with wide eyes. The sight of my wrecked barn and the flustered bunch of well-dressed intruders made him chuckle. "Evening, Hank," he said, trying to swallow a grin. "Looks like you've stirred things up." "Got a little trespassing situation here," I said, lifting my chin toward the Realtor. "Ma'am, can you explain what you're doing on Mr. Walker's property without permission?" Carter's tone was firm, but there was a lightness to it, as if he found the whole affair amusing. "This man is squatting on my land," she spat, trying to regain control of the narrative. Carter looked unimpressed. "Unless you have a court order, you're trespassing." I watched as the color drained from her face. The rest of her entourage exchanged cautious glances like rats cornered in a trap. But I have all the right paperwork," she stammered, fumbling through the stack of documents she had brought. I knew it was all fake. Forgeries meant to intimidate. I leaned into the moment. "You mean the ones you left lying on my porch last week? Those aren't worth the paper they're printed on. Let's take some statements." Carter motioned, shuffling the suits to the side, pushing the Realtor toward the cruiser. "What are you doing?" she screamed, panic creeping into her voice as she realized things were spiraling out of control. "Making sure you understand that this isn't over until you're completely out of my life." I narrowed my eyes. "And it looks like you need a wake-up call." As they loaded her into the back of the cruiser, the wheels of justice began turning and I felt a surge of satisfaction. I couldn't help it. Sometimes the universe has a way of balancing things out. Her eyes flickered with wild defiance as she twisted in her seat, glaring at me through the window. "You're making a mistake, old man," she shouted. "Yeah?" I replied, a grin creeping across my face. "You'll find out just how big of a mistake very soon." With the sheriff's department wrapping things up, I stood on my porch, surveying the aftermath. I had won this battle, but I knew the war was just beginning. The Realtor would be back, I could feel it in my bones, but next time it would be on my terms and I wouldn't be caught off guard. The wind whispered through the fields, and I could almost hear the echoes of my ancestors, urging me to stay strong and fight for what was rightfully mine. I wouldn't let them down. Not now. Not ever. As the sheriff's car pulled away, leaving the Realtor in the back seat, I felt a strange mix of triumph and dread. I had won this round, but I could sense the storm brewing. It was just a matter of time before she struck back, and I needed to be ready. That very night, I made calls to my friends and allies across the county, rallying support while I still had the upper hand. Days passed, and I fortified the ranch, installing more security cameras and repairing any breaches the Realtor might exploit. I kept Tyler close, teaching him the ins and outs of ranch life and sharing my plans. Together, we laid out strategies, anticipating her next move. Every twist and turn of this legal battle now played in my mind like a game of chess. Then came the day that turned everything upside down. It started like any other morning, but as I sipped my coffee and stepped onto the porch, I spotted a figure at the far side of the property line. I squinted, recognition hitting me. It was the same young ranch hand, Clay, darting toward me. He looked frantic, sweat dripping down his forehead. "They're coming, Mr. Walker. A whole crew," he shouted, breathless. My heart raced. "Who? The Realtor?" "No, bigger. It's her corporate team, a whole convoy. They're bringing more than just papers this time." Before I could process the information, I turned toward the road, and sure enough, a fleet of trucks appeared, barreling down the dirt path with men in sharp suits standing in the backs, holding what looked like heavy equipment. I cursed under my breath. This was not a simple attempt to intimidate. She was bringing in reinforcements. It felt like a siege. I rushed inside and grabbed my old shotgun, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. "Tyler!" I shouted, racing through the house, adrenaline fueling my every step. "Get the others. We need everyone out here now." He was right beside me, eyes wide with fear and determination. "What's the plan?" "Hold the line. We can't let them cross the property." We sprinted back outside as the convoy skidded to a halt just shy of the fence. The suits jumped down and the Realtor stepped out, her face twisted in a tight smile that promised malice. "Mr. Walker," she called, voice dripping with false pretense. "We've come to settle this once and for all." "What's the meaning of this?" I shouted back, aiming my shotgun toward the ground but making it clear I meant business. "This," she said, gesturing behind her as powerful drilling machines began unloading from the trucks, "is our new acquisition plan. We're here to start immediate construction." "No, you're not," I barked back, steel simmering beneath my words. "This land doesn't belong to you." "It was never yours to begin with," she shot back, malice coloring her tone. "Your fate was sealed the moment you refused to comply. We're taking the land you've held on to for so long. The county supports our claim." The sun shined down, illuminating the fear and resolve in my eyes. I turned to Tyler and he nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. It wasn't just about our land. This was about a community, about standing up against treachery. I roared for the others, and within moments my allies trickled out from behind the barn, the very people who had fought for this land alongside me from the start. Old ranchers, neighbors, anyone who understood the significance of protecting what mattered. "You can't do this," one of them cried, stepping forward, fists clenched. "This is our home." The realtor laughed, a cruel, twisted sound that echoed across the fields. "You think you can stop progress? I've got the law on my side. This is your last chance to back down." "Then let's settle this the hard way," I yelled, adrenaline thrumming through my veins. The men in suits began advancing, machines roaring to life behind them. But I was ready. I stepped forward, my voice booming. "If you want this land, you'll have to go through all of us." Suddenly, with a burst of energy that felt almost electric, the townsfolk behind me joined in, shouting their defiance. We held the line together and I could see fear flicker in the realtor's eyes for the first time. "Retreat," she shouted, her voice laced with panic as her hired hands hesitated. But it was too late. What started as a bold invasion was now crumbling under the strength of community, an unstoppable force fueled by a shared purpose and unyielding courage. Before she could bark another order, I took my chance. I stepped forward, pointing the shotgun skyward. "If you want to come here and claim what isn't yours, you're going to have to pay the price." "Stop him," she screamed. But a band of ranchers moved in, ready to surround her, fists raised. The standoff hung heavy in the air, tension crackling like a live wire. I watched as her confidence began to unravel, the bravado leaking away as she recognized the power of a united front. In that moment, as we all stood together, shoulder to shoulder, I felt something shift not just within me but in the world around us. This wasn't just a fight for my ranch anymore. It was about standing against greed and injustice. Then, from the distance, a sound I hadn't anticipated. Sirens blaring, rapidly approaching. The county sheriff's deputies pulled up, lights flashing, and out came Carter, flanked by several. "Officers, step back," he commanded, brandishing his badge. "What's going on here?" The moment hung suspended and I took a deep breath, stepping forward. "They're trying to take our land by force," I declared, my voice steady. "We're here to protect what's ours." The deputies exchanged glances and closed in, grabbing the suits and the realtor without hesitation. "We'll handle this," Carter said firmly, turning his eyes toward her. Her facade shattered as she was cuffed, eyes wide with disbelief. "You can't do this. You won't win." But the tides had turned. As the deputies escorted her away, she twisted in the grip of the law, a predator trapped by her own schemes. With a roar of victory, my fellow ranchers and friends erupted in cheers, voices echoing across the fields. We weren't just a group of landowners. We were a kinship that had stood against the storm and emerged stronger on the other side. In that moment, I realized this fight was no longer just personal. It was about all of us, standing for what is right, a community united in purpose. And, as I stood there, watching the frenzy transform into celebration, I understood that true ownership is etched in the heart, not by paper or contract, but by resolve, history, and the bonds forged through battle. No slick realtor or greedy developer could take that away. Together, we were unstoppable. Together, we had just made history. The victory felt like a new dawn breaking over the Texas plains, a promise of resilience, hope and strength to protect our legacy forevermore.